Streaming defenses in fantasy football is one of the biggest edges you could get on your opponent on a weekly basis. Having a defense that has the upside of scoring 15 or 20 fantasy points could be the difference between winning and losing your fantasy matchup. And in today's video, I'm going to help you do exactly that. We're going to be breaking down my 5 must-stream defenses for week number 6 of the 2025 fantasy football season. To set some parameters, we are not going to be talking about defenses that are widely owned. We're not going to be talking about defenses that are owned in 70+% of the leagues. I know, Nick, the Pittsburgh Steelers are going up against the Cleveland Browns. Don't you want the Pittsburgh Steelers defense? I know. The Eagles are going up against the Giants in MetLife. Don't you want the Eagles defense? Of course I do, but they're owned in too many leagues to discuss in today's video. So before we get into things, make sure you guys do hit that subscribe button down below if you are new to the channel. So without further ado, let's get into today's video. We begin with my first defense to stream on the week, the Green Bay Packers going up against the Cincinnati Bengals at home this week in Green Bay. The Packers defense is currently rostered in 38.4% of leagues on NFL, 40% over on Sleeper, 45% on Yahoo, and 46% over on ESPN. Now, the Packers were on bye last week, so in some of your guys' leagues, they may have been dropped, so you definitely want to go ahead and scoop them, as the Cincinnati Bengals matchup for defenses has been incredibly fruitful. But again, the Packers were on bye last week, so we do have to go back to week number 4 to look for their last defensive performance. That was the game up against the Dallas Cowboys, the primetime game in Jerry's world, where they tie 40-40. Probably, like I said all of last week, the most exciting tie that I have seen. 1 sack and 38 points allowed, which was their worst defensive showing on the season, which to me is much more indicative of the fact that the Cowboys offense is an absolute wagon, that the Cowboys offense is lethal, and much less of an indication that the Packers defense is terrible. They're now flaccid. They're now one of the worst defenses in the NFL, right? We don't fully panic after one down game. Prior to their last game, 2+ sacks in all 3 games, a turnover in 2 of 3 games, and 18 points allowed or less in all 3 of those games. So you definitely do not want to worry about the Packers defense one bit. We just saw the Lions defense tee off on the Cincinnati Bengals on Sunday. In Cincinnati, they win 37-24, 2 sacks, 3 INTs, 1 safety, and 24 points allowed. The best thing about Jake Browning is that his wife is super hot on the sideline whenever they show her up in her booth or whatever, wearing that outfit that she always wears. Very nice to Jake Browning for that, but Jake Browning is a complete and utter unmitigated disaster. They need to get famous Jameis in there. They need to get someone else, just someone else to play quarterback, because the ship is sinking rapidly for the Cincinnati Bengals. And if there is no change made at the quarterback position and Jake Browning continues to be the quarterback 1 of this team for the rest of the season, we are going to be picking on them every single week. Now, the Packers do go up against the Cardinals in week 7 in Arizona, and with how the Cardinals offense has looked so far this season, you can definitely play the Packers again next week in week number 7. Next up, we got the Los Angeles Rams going up against the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore. 54.7% rostered on NFL for the Rams, 52% over on Sleeper, 54% on Yahoo, and 49.1% on ESPN. Now, Fox Sports' Jay Glazer reported on Sunday before the game up against the Texans that they played last week for the Ravens that this is going to be an outside shot for Lamar Jackson to play this week up against the Los Angeles Rams, but they do not want to shut him down just yet, so they're not going to give a strong indication out there basically to tell the Rams, hey, just prepare for Cooper Rush again. It's basically like, hey, maybe you need to be a little bit nervous that maybe Lamar Jackson does end up suiting up. Now, I did talk about this last week. I talked about how I believe the team is going to go about the Lamar Jackson situation, right? He hurts his hamstring up against the Kansas City Chiefs, and I said, you know what? I think they're going to shut him down up against the Texans. I think he's going to miss the next game up against the Rams because of the fact that they have the bye in week number 7. You don't necessarily want to rush him out there up against the Rams in case he re-aggravates it, he gets hurt. They have the bye week right after this, and then they'll be able to rest him up, and then they'll come out of that game with him and just be able to look like a much better product. So this week, my assumption is going to be that the LA Rams are going up against Cooper Rush. And again, take that with a little bit of a grain of salt. There is still, in my opinion, a small possibility that Lamar Jackson suits up, but my assumption right now is that it will be Cooper Rush again, who looked like a complete and utter fucking disgrace to the city of Baltimore. The Rams defense went up against the 49ers on Thursday night. They lose 23-26. Mac Jones slapped them around. They used them like one of those bags you ever watch, like Rocky. I'm trying to think, it's a speed bag, right? In Rocky, where he's like fucking going like this and he's just smacking the bag a million times in a row. That is what Mac Jones did to the Rams defense. 1 sack and 26 points allowed in that game. But the Rams defense is definitely much better than what they showed last week. And based upon how the Ravens offense was completely and utterly limp dick, they were complete and utterly flaccid without Lamar Jackson, I think that the Rams defense is going to feast. The Texans defense, week 5 at Baltimore, they had CJ Stroud looking like he was back at Ohio State. They had CJ Stroud looking like it was his rookie year all over again. They had the Texans defense looking like the 85 Bears. They win 44-10, 1 sack, 3 INTs, and 10 points allowed in that game for the Texans defense. The Rams next week play the Jacksonville Jaguars in England next week, so I don't love that spot on paper necessarily, because you kind of just know whenever the game is not in the United States of America, crazy shit happens. Do I think the Jaguars are some offensive wagon? Of course not. I don't think anyone thinks they're like some offensive juggernaut, but deep down, knowing the game's in London, it could just be a gross game. You know, the Jaguars love playing in England, so maybe things end up not going well for the Rams, but I do definitely think at this point in the season, based on what we've seen, the Rams defense would be startable in that game. Speaking of the Jaguars, we got the Jacksonville Jaguars going up against the Seattle Seahawks in Duval. 25.4% roster on NFL for the Jaguars, 20% over on Sleeper, 13% on Yahoo, and 17.8% over on ESPN. Now, the Jaguars play the Chiefs tonight on Monday Night Football, so I can't tell you exactly what's going to happen in this game, so we got to go back to week number 4 for the last offensive showing. Jaguars defense, week 4 at San Francisco in Santa Clara. They win that game 26-21, 1 sack, 2 INTs, 2 fumble recoveries, and 21 points allowed. The Jaguars defense has been, through the start of the season, one of the biggest surprises in the NFL as a whole. I did not personally think that the Jaguars defense would look remotely this good, and I don't think anyone did. They look incredible defensively. The Jaguars defense is on fire. They have recorded 1 or more sack in every single game, 2 or more interceptions in every single game. 2 or more interceptions in every single game. Think about how crazy that is. And 1 or more fumble recovery in 3 of 4 games. Now, sure, maybe Patrick Mahomes fucking cooks him up like a hibachi chef, right? Maybe he goes out there and he's shooting sake into the mouth of the Jaguars defense. I think that is possible, but the Jaguars defense has looked so good that at this point, I am not going to be turning my back on them, even with the Seattle Seahawks as a whole playing very well offensively. The Buccaneers defense, week 5 at the Seattle Seahawks, that was a banger. And I know bangers. W 38-35 for the Buccaneers. Crazy game. Emeka Egbuka is him. Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield making the Carolina Panthers both look silly. I mean, fucking incredible. Incredible game. Very fun game to watch. The Buccaneers do ultimately win, though. Like I said, 38-35. They get 1 interception, 1 fumble recovery, 35 points allowed. But the Buccaneers defense really isn't all that good when you compare them to what the Jaguars have done defensively this season. The Jaguars play the Rams in week number 7, and while that does scare me, I definitely would be willing to play them due to how strong they have been defensively this season. Next up, we got the New England Patriots going up against the New Orleans Saints in New Orleans. 14.4% roster on NFL, 20% on Sleeper, 16% on Yahoo, and 41.2% 0.7% on ESPN. Before we break down the Patriots defense and the final defense in today's video, I would like to give you guys a quick word for our friends, our partner over on Underdog. If you are new to Underdog and sign up using promo code Notorious or by clicking on the link in the video description, you receive a free pick plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus funds, as well as if you are a new user and you play $5 in the pick'em, you will get either $100 in bonus funds or in bonus entries. Make sure you guys do check that out. Promo code Notorious or by clicking on the link in the video description. If you do not know how the pick'em works, it's incredibly simple. You pick at least 2 players. They're higher or they're lower. If both those picks hit, you get paid. If you do multiple other picks, they all have to hit, but the payout will be higher. Again, make sure you guys do check that out. Promo code Notorious or by clicking on the link in the video description. So the New England Patriots going up against the New Orleans Saints. Patriots defense been pretty spotty so far through the start of the season, but they really locked in that division rivalry matchup last night on Sunday Night Football. The Buffalo Bills wore their cool whiteout primetime rivalry jerseys, and I was going to say they got the floor wiped with them. They got, decapitated metaphorically, of course, but they didn't, right? They lose 2023, but the Patriots eat that W. Shout out to all the Patriots out there. As the #1 Buffalo Bills hater in all of America, I was very happy to see that. Congrats to the Patriots. It's just so funny, right? The Patriots started a rebuild 2 years ago. They're already beating the fucking Bills. The Dolphins, they rebuild, and now they just suck dick, right? They're losing to the Panthers. Can't beat the Buffalo Bills, but the Patriots, it just takes 2 years. That's what happens when you have a competent owner, right? Which is just something the Dolphins don't have. We'll be talking more about the Dolphins throughout the week, and thus my anger with the team. But the Patriots, they look good in this game defensively. They shut down a lot of what the Bills do the best. James Cook didn't really have that great of a day, and that was what ultimately was a big push for this defense. They had 1 sack, 1 INT, 2 fumble recoveries, and 20 points allowed. Now, I understand that the Saints fucking came alive. They had discount Patrick Mahomes, Spencer Rattler looking like real Patrick Mahomes. The Giants didn't record a single defensive metric outside of getting scored on 20 times. They lose the game. Not 20 times, 20 points, obviously. If they got scored on 20 fucking times, that would be crazy. They lose 14-26, 20 points allowed on the defense. Now, the Patriots do play the Titans in Week 7, and then they play the Browns in Week 8. So if you pick up the Patriots this week, then you don't even have to worry about a defense in Week 7, because congrats to the Titans on getting a win. But guess what? We're still streaming against the Titans. The Browns, congrats. Dylan Gabriel actually looks okay. Still streaming up against them too. So in Week 6, Week 7, Week 8, I still feel very, very good about the Patriots. And again, congrats to Spencer Rattler having a decent day, right? But I think the Patriots defense, with how well they played up against the Buffalo Bills, you have to think they'll be able to at least keep the Saints offense in check. Final defense to discuss in today's video is going to be the Las Vegas Raiders going up against the Tennessee Titans. 1.5% rostered on NFL, 2% on Sleeper, 2% on Yahoo, and 1% on ESPN. You can make the argument here that instead of the Raiders, this should be the Titans. I do think the Raiders have a better defense as a whole, but if you wanted to play the Titans against the Raiders, I'm not going to judge you either. I understand that the Raiders are a complete and utter fucking joke at this point. Geno Smith looks like a fucking blind man out there. Geno Smith looks like he's cross-eyed out there. Geno Smith looks like you ever tried to play the hit the pinata game as a kid and they blindfold you. You do like a dizzy bat around the thing and then you run at the fucking pinata and you end up smacking your dad in the cojones with the bat because you can't fucking see anything. That is what it's like to watch Geno Smith go out there. It's like he does a dizzy bat competition before he goes out there. He takes 7 shots of tequila before every single drop back. It is so hard to watch. But defense is good, and the Tennessee Titans are good enough, and the Tennessee Titans offense really isn't all that good. Congratulations on the win. Last week, they win 22-21, but the Cardinals defense was all over them. 2 sacks, 1 INT, 1 fumble recovery, 16 points allowed. The only reason why the Cardinals lost that game is because they shot themselves in the fucking foot by Amari DiMarcado, the Italian stallion running back, fumbling the ball instead of walking into the end zone. These motherfuckers are so stupid that it genuinely pisses me off. Like, it actually gets me so frustrated because, like, buddy, just take 2 more steps. Just make sure you're in the end zone, right? And look, I know it's egregious when it happens every once in a while. It's like, how does this keep happening, right? When it happens a couple times a season. Motherfucker, the same exact thing happened with Adonai Mitchell last week. And then it happens, or I guess 2 weeks ago, week 4. Then it happens last week in week 5. I mean, like, do these coaches not have like a large emphasis on this? Like, hey, look at Adonai Mitchell. You see what he did? None of you motherfuckers can do this. And then guess what happens? They do it. They love fumbling. They love fumbling. I don't know why these players can't just walk into the end zone. It doesn't make any sense. They gave them the life to lose the game. The Cardinals lost the game more than the Titans actually won the game. And I mean, that touchdown with Lockett just picking the ball up in the end zone was crazy too. I mean, the Raiders, again, I don't think they're the greatest defense on earth, but I think the Raiders will be able to apply pressure to Cam Ward, and Cam Ward will still make those rookie mistakes. So that's why I'm fine starting the Raiders defense. And after this week, the Raiders head to Kansas City. I know this hasn't been the same Kansas City Chiefs team that we've came accustomed to ever since Patrick Mahomes came to town out of Texas Tech, but starting the Raiders defense in Arrowhead would be clinically insane, in my opinion. Clear drop after this week. So thank you guys all so much for watching today's video. If you didn't enjoy, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below, like it owes you some money. Leave a like on today's video to help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter or X, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. Check out one of the videos on the screen if you haven't seen already. Again, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. I love you so much. Have a great one. As always, good boy.